The announcement came this past weekend, but when did you know?
I probably could have made the announcement as early as last season. I said, you know, if unless something changes, next season is going to be my last season. And then finally I realized, I said, well, you can't make this decision based off of something changing. This is something that's internal. Do you want to do this or not? And if the answer is no, then that passion is no longer there the way it used to be. So just let it go.
So there's nothing that could change your mind at this point. There's no streak of success or no
zero.
That are sort of waiting there for you. Let's talk about your focus on basketball, since that was the predominant part of your life. When did you start playing basketball, and at what age did it become your primary focus?
You know, I think I was born to play, man. I started playing at like 2 years old. And my father wasn't one of these fathers that was like, you're going to play basketball, or, you know, he wasn't one of those guys. It was just I was just around the game a lot, and I gravitated to the ball, and I was completely geeking out about like the smell of the ball and like the way it sounds when it hits concrete versus how it hits a parquet floor, and like the sound of the nets and the different material of the nets. And, you know, there's certain basketball hoops, like in high school gyms and in college gyms, the rim sits slightly above the lower part of the backboard. And it was like, I was geeking out if I got into a gym which was like the NBA, with the lower stanchion of the backboard and the hoop were completely parallel with each other. Like little shit like that would freak me out. So to answer your question, I was born to do this thing, man. And I did it nonstop all day long, from the age of 2 to when I retired, man.
And it's interesting from the movie and from what you say, it is as though, you know, when you fall in love with something, truly fall in love with it, you don't really have a choice. It chooses you.
Right.
And then you sort of become, you know, indebted to that. So it's interesting to see it come out as a love letter, because no one probably would assume that would be the way you would express it.
Sure. Well, no, I mean, it's you know, that's the trick, isn't it? It's finding what you love to do. I mean, we talk about hard work all the time. It's like, you know, man, if you got to get up every single morning and remind yourself how hard you need to work, you probably need to choose a different profession, you know, because that shouldn't be there. I wake up in the morning excited to get to it. You know, if I'm not training, I'm missing it. If I'm not watching a game of basketball, I miss it. You know, there's no place I'd rather be. And if you have that feeling, then you're truly doing what God has put you on this earth to do.
Great advice. And then you left, you went from high school, you didn't leave high school, you graduated from high school, you went directly to the NBA. You were so young, you were 17, that your parents had to sign your first NBA contract.
Yeah.
So
right.
You're the youngest person not only on the team, but in the league. We've got a bunch of graduating students who are probably going to their first full-time job. Do you have any advice for students entering an organization and being the youngest person, not in the room, but in the whole company?
Well, I mean, in business, it's a little different. You know, it's. I think the best way to prove your value is to work, is to learn, is to absorb, to be a sponge, right? But you always want to outwork your potential. You know, as hard as you believe you can work harder than that. And that's what I tried to do when I first came in the league. But, you know, basketball is such a direct competition sport that me coming in at 17, I hated when, like, my teammates would say, you know, I get hit with an elbow, right? Shaq would hit me with an elbow in practice. And, like, you know, Nick Van Exel would come up and say, are you okay? I'm like, motherfucker, what? Are you okay? What the hell's wrong with you? You know, so like I always had that extra chip on my shoulder. So like every day in practice for me was really trying to annihilate everybody that I was playing against. Because I wanted to prove you don't need to babysit me. Like I'm fine, you know? And so it's always that competitive nature, the work ethic, and curiosity. Because I asked a lot of questions. You know, playing with Byron Scott, I asked him a lot of questions. Eddie Jones, who was great at chasing guards off the screens, and I didn't understand how to do that. I would sit with him before practice, after practice. Magic, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis, Kareem Abdul, all the Laker greats. I would always sit down and just ask them questions about certain games that I studied growing up. What actually happened there? What did you feel there? Why? You know, Bird tough to defend. Why? Because you look slow as shit to me. So like, I'm missing something. So like, tell me what I'm missing. You know what I mean? And so I would always ask questions and try to learn as much as I could. Right? No? I was a different generation. You guys probably never
So
even seen
good.
Larry Bird play, which
Yeah.
is
Just
how
thought
many have
that's,
seen Larry Bird play?
hey, everybody's seen Larry Bird play.
That's not a high enough percentage. We got some work to do.
They are, they are 18 to 22,
no,
so
that's
it's before their time, but I just thought that could be the greatest meme to send to Boston this afternoon.
Yeah. Well, my kids have never seen Jordan play, so
Yeah, that's crazy.
they don't know.
That's
like,
crazy.
They don't know.
I care deeply about human beings, and I think that's why so many people love you as well. So I want to acknowledge you for your kindness and your generosity towards humanity. My first question for you is, I'm curious about who was your greatest teacher growing up? Because you had an interesting childhood, being in Italy for a while, coming back to Philadelphia, I think it was.
Yeah.
But who was the greatest teacher for you in those early days?
It's funny, man. I had a lot of them. My parents were great. Growing up, they instilled in me the importance of imagination, of curiosity, and understanding that, okay, if you want to accomplish something, I'm not just going to sit here and say, yes, you can do whatever you want. Yes, you can, but you have to also put in the work to get there, right? So they taught me that at a really early age, man. And when you grow up as a kid thinking that the world is your oyster, and all things are possible if you put in the work to do it, you grow up having that fundamental belief.
Yeah. Who was more influential for you, your father or mother?
Both were influential at different points.
Yeah.
Right. My mom was there on a daily basis. My father was really influential at a really critical time where I had a summer where I played basketball when I was like 10 or 11 years old, in a very prominent summer league in Philadelphia called the Sunny Hill League, where my father played, my uncle played, and they were like all-time greats and such stuff. And Wilt Chamberlain played in the league, Earl of Monroe played in the league. And here I come playing, and I don't score 1 point the entire summer.
Really?
Not one.
How old were you?
11, 10, 11.
And you're playing against other 10, 11-year-olds? Or you didn't score once?
Not one.
Were you in the game?
I was in the game.
How did you not score?
Because I was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
At 10, 11 years old, you were that terrible.
Awful. I mean, and I had these big knee pads on because I was growing really fast. I had socks all the way up here, and I had like the high top
Skinny,
fade, like skinny as hell. And I scored not a free throw, nothing, not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points. And I remember crying about it and being upset about it. And my father just gave me a hug and said, listen, whether you score 0 or score 60, I'm going to love you no matter what.
Wow.
Now, that is the most important thing that you can say to a child. Because from there, I was like, okay, that gives me all the confidence in the world to fail. I have the security there. But to hell with that, I'm scoring 60. Let's go.
Right.
And from there, I just went to work. And I stayed with it. I kept practicing.
Is that when you think the mentality of hard work started to come in for you at that age, when you failed so miserably, I guess, that summer?
I think that's when the idea of understanding a long-term view became important, because I wasn't going to catch these kids in a week. I wasn't going to catch them in a year, right? So that's when I sat down and said, okay, this is going to take some thought, all right? What do I want to work on first? All right, shooting. All right, let's knock this out. Let's focus on this. Half a year, 6 months, do nothing but shoot. Right after that, all right, creating your own shot, and you focus. So I started creating a menu of things. When I came back the next summer, I was a little bit better, right?
And a menu being like, I've got my jump shot from 15. I've got my
I got my jump shot from 15. I got my 3-point shot, like just open shots, not miss open shots, right? Be able to shoot it with speed, because those kids are so much more athletic.
Yeah.
And then the next summer I came back, I was a little better. And the summer came back.
You
scored. Next summer I was a little better. I scored.
Yeah,
it wasn't much, but I scored.
And this is 12, 13.
12, 13. And then 14 came around, back half of 13, 14 years old. And then I was just killing everyone. And it happened in 2 years. And I wasn't expecting it to happen in 2 years, but it did, because what I had to do was work on the basics and the fundamentals, while they relied on their athleticism and their natural ability. And because I stick to the fundamentals, it just caught up to them. And then my body, my knees stopped hurting. I grew into my frame. And
then your athleticism, once you have the fundamentals, the hard work, the mindset, and you tack on the athleticism, it's game over.
Then it was game over.
Wow. So from 13, you're good, average still?
I was good. I was good. And then about the end of my third, like right when I was turning 14, I became the best player in the state.
At 14?
At 14.
So from 12 to 14, you went from scoring 0 to being the best in the state. Of all ages.
Yep. But it's simple. Like if you do the math on this, right? Like if you're thinking about how often kids are playing, right? And I tell this to my daughter and my daughter's team as well that I coach. So it's a simple thing of math. If you want to be a great player, if you play every single day, 2-3 hours, every single day, over the course of a year, how much better are you getting? Most kids will play maybe, an hour and a half, 2 days a week.
Right.
Do the math on that. It's not going to get it done. It's not going to get it done, right? So if you're obsessively training 2-3 hours every single day over a year, over 2 years,
you're accelerating.
You make quantum leaps, man.
Just doing a summer camp for 2 weeks, you see a difference. I remember playing basketball growing up.
You see it.
You get a lot better. You come back more confident playing on the playground with guys who used to beat you.
Yeah, and I tell the parents on my team, I said it's when I say your kids are going to become great basketball players, saying like, really? Like, yeah, it's not. There's no
it's math.
It's it.
Show up every single day.
Show up every single day. Do the work.
But you have this Mamba mentality. Your book's coming out soon. And how did you develop this? There's a beautiful story that I love from Jay Williams. I don't know if you remember Jason Williams, where he did an interview a while back, and he talked about how when he played you, I think the first time or one of the first times he played against you, he was like, I'm going to show up so early to the court to warm up and practice like before anyone. Yeah. And he shows up at the court. I don't know if it was in LA or where it was, and you were the only one there. Already shooting free throws, already doing your fundamentals. And he goes, I'm going to stay here until Kobe leaves. And then he was like, gosh, an hour and a half, 2 hours later,
I got to go.
I'm tired. And Kobe's still shooting free throws, scoring, like just going over the fundamentals. And he goes, and then we played that game and you were lights out. And he came up to you afterwards and said like, dude, why were you in there for so long? Or how'd you do it? And he said, this is what he said. You said, I knew you were watching and I wanted to show you that I was willing to outwork you.
Right.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this.
I remember it.
You remember, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was so powerful that you have this mindset, but how did you develop that? I don't know if that's what you call the Mamba mindset, but how did you develop that? And when did it start?
It started in middle school and high school because a lot of the kids that I was playing against were inner city kids. Yeah. And so they're looking at me as if, okay, this kid's soft. Right, he's from the suburbs of Philadelphia. His father played in the NBA, played professionally.
He's got it easy.
Born on second, all this other stuff, right? And so they felt like they could try to be physical or try to intimidate me and do all this other stuff, which they couldn't, right? But now I'm saying, okay, well, you're trying to attack me. How am I going to attack you? How can I mentally figure out ways to break you down? How can I show you that, no, I have the edge, right? And so that's when it first started for me, is figuring out how to get the upper hand on an opponent that way.
And what would you do to mentally break people down then?
Well, I mean, we used to have an All-American camp that I used to go to. And, at the time I first showed up, I was a sophomore. And one of the things I would do is while everybody would be at the cafeteria work, eating and doing all sort of stuff, I'd just go back to the gym.
They'd be resting, eating.
And they'd see me leave. Right. But now you're in a tough position because you're like, okay, I want to be like, I'm following the kid to go work out, but I know he's working, he's up early and he's doing all this other stuff. And so that was my way of showing them, I may be from the suburbs, but you're not going to outwork me.
Wow.
And I'm mentally going to.
Did someone teach you that? Was that just a thing that you decided, like, I'm going to get in people's minds?
I think it's just figuring out ways to be better. And to win the game. And it started as a defense mechanism because, they were the ones talking trash to me and, kid from Italy, blah, 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 and all sorts of stuff. And it was like, okay, I can't let them, I got to defend myself here, right? And then it became, okay, I'm pretty witty. I can say some pretty witty things.
Yeah. And in Italian.
And in Italian. Yeah.
But just settle down. Just don't make a lot of noise so we can enjoy the interview. I get it. Settle down. So, one of the things most of you guys don't know, we were in the back. Mario was asking me a question. Mario asked me a question and says, what do you think about when you think about Kobe? And I said, the first thing that comes to my mind is my dad. He says, why your dad? I said, because, he's born August 23rd, 78.
Yeah.
I'm October 1878. So you're 6.5, 7 weeks older than me.
Right.
So when he came to the Lake, I've been a diehard Laker fan since, 1990 when I came to the States from Iran. And I never forget this. We would sit there and watch the game together. My dad and I would watch you play. And one day, Lakers are playing against the 76ers. and it's game one. If you know my dad, you know he's had a lot of heart attacks. We're watching game one. Iverson hits the shot over Ty Lue, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Game ends, they win the first game. My dad gets up and my dad says, Patrick, take me to the hospital. We went straight to the hospital because he was having heart issues. So that's how much we go back watching you grow up, watching you play. It was amazing doing what you did for one organization for 20 years. But, before we get into it and kind of talk about what you're working on today and some of the mental toughness stuff here, if I was in high school with you,
Yeah.
outside of your game, outside you playing ball, who was Kobe Bryant as an individual and personality in high school? If we were in high school together.
Much the same that I am now, actually, which is extremely curious. Extremely curious. I had a great teacher in high school. Her name is Jane Mastriano, who I'm still very close to. And she sparked my curiosity in writing. And the reason why I felt it was important at the time was not for the writing's sake or not for storytelling purposes, but there are things in story, inherently in story, that can help me be a better basketball player, be a better teammate, a better leader, understand emotions better. So that's why I got into storytelling, actually. So just insanely curious, man. And, trivial things weren't going to pull my attention. It had to be things weren't going to pull my attention. It had to be things that I had a purpose. I wanted to be one of the best basketball players to ever play. And anything else that was outside of that lane, I didn't have time for.
At what age did that goal become crystal clear?
I made that deal with myself at 13 years old.
At 13 years old?
13 years old. That's the deal I made.
You were crystal clear about it?
Crystal clear.
And where did inspiration come from?
The love of the game. The love of the game, the challenge. Like I would watch Magic play, I'd watch Michael play, and I would see them do these unbelievable things. And I'd say, can I get to that level? I don't know, but let's find out. And so that curiosity to see where I could push this thing led me down that path, I think.
Led you down that path?
I think so.
Now, were you always competitive from the day you were born? You were super competitive?
Competitive with things that I participate in. So I'll put it to you this way. So Michael is competitive in all things that don't make sense. Right?
Ping pong.
Yeah, it's just, you know what I'm saying? So he would try to get me to play golf all the time. Mike, I know about you. I've written books report about you in elementary school. I know you started playing golf when you were in Carolina. So that means if I'm doing the math, you've been playing golf for 100 fucking years. I have not picked up a golf club.
Ever.
The last thing you're going to do is get me on a golf course and annihilate me. Not going to do it.
You've never picked up a golf club?
No, I did it one time and I was hitting 400-yard grounders. And so it got my competitiveness going. I got to learn this game. But then I broke my finger during that year and then I couldn't play much and that was it.
So the one thing when I see with you and I think about brain and I think focus, how so many different things brain can get distracted on and I'm going to put focus on this and focus on this and focus on this. Mm-hmm. Do you think one of the edge you had over everybody else was the biggest percentage of your focus was on one thing? Mm-hmm. Do you see it that way? That was my edge over everybody else?
I do. At the time, I didn't really understand that. Right. So, basketball for me was the most important thing. So everything I saw, whether it was TV shows, whether it was books I read, people I talked to, everything was done to try to learn how to become a better basketball player. Everything. And so when you have that point of view, then literally the world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
The world becomes your library to help you improve your craft, better your craft.
Yes, indeed.
So because you know what you want, the world's giving you exactly the information you need to become better at it.
Because you know what you're looking for. Yeah.
So when you size your peers up, how'd you size your peers up? If you're sizing people, I'm talking you're 13 years old, you're sizing peers up, what lens are you looking through your peers?
So at 13 years old, I had a kill list. And so, they used to do these rankings. It was Street and Smith basketball rankings. And I was nowhere to be found because I was 6'4", scrawny, 160 pounds soaking wet. So I was 57 on the list. And so I will look at 56, 55, all the way up to number 1, who these players are, what club teams they played for. So when we go on an AAU travel circuit, I got to hunt them down, right? And so that became my mission in high school, is to check off every other person, all those 56 other names, hunt them down and knock them down. That was it.
Get a target on them right off the bat.
That was it.
Very simple. That's unbelievable. Let me ask you this question. You say I'm one of the guys on that list ahead of you, and we play. What are you doing to get a feel? Is your mind like, are you asking, let me see if this guy's better than me in this side and this side and this side? Or are you just going saying, I'm going to kill this guy?
Well, it depends what year. So like at 13 years old, I played the longer game, because my game wasn't about being better than you at 13. It was to be better than you when, the chips are really on the line. So when we played at 13, I would size you up and see what your strengths and weaknesses are. How do you approach the game? Are you silly about it? Are you goofy about it? Are you good at it just because you're bigger and stronger than everybody else? Right? Or is there actually thought and skill that you put into it? Right? And when I'd play to my weaknesses. I wouldn't play to my strengths. I played to my weaknesses. Because when you're playing summer basketball, there's so many games. So there's not a lot of skill work being done. So when are you going to get better? Right? When you're playing in competition situations, you're only playing to your strengths. Why? Because you want to win. Right? So what I would do, I was work on the things during those games that I was weak at. Left hand, pull-up jump shot, post game. Right? So I have a strategy. And so then fast forward to when I'm 17 and my game is completely well-rounded, and that player at 13 that I saw at 13 is still doing the same shit at 17, now you got a problem.
That's right.
You got a problem.
And you saw that.
You got a problem.
And by the way, let me ask you. So that's high school. You go into the league. When you're going into the league, you're going with a lot of guys that were, same age, same class as you were going in.
Yeah.
Were you sizing those guys up the same exact way as you did in high school?
I did, but in the NBA, it was actually easier, because what I found in the NBA is a lot of guys played for financial stability. And when they came to the NBA, they got that financial stability. So therefore, the passion and the work ethic and the obsessiveness was gone. So I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna be like taking candy from a baby. No wonder Mike wins all these fucking championships. It's like, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
And then you had the players that had that passion, but weren't willing to commit their entire lives to doing that, right? It's a choice, right? You have other things. You have family. You have all these other things that you have to do. The game can't really be your number one priority. And so I was looking at that like, man, this is going to be fun.
In the muse, you said, I knew you couldn't do what I was doing because I was obsessed. I'm paraphrasing. And then you said, whether it's friends, relationship, it didn't matter. It was all basketball.
Yeah.
If I'm buddies with you from high school, if I'm a cousin of yours, what happened to our relationship? How did that gravitate when you went into the league and you're determined to become the greatest, or you're determined to become one of the greatest? What happens to our relationship?
Oh, it suffers.
It does suffer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you understood that. You were okay with that.
Well, yeah. And the people that love you, like friends and family, like they know that about you.
Got it.
So they let you be you. And when you reconvene, you pick back up where you left off. Mm-hmm. But make no mistake about it, everything in between is lost, right? So those long-term relationships, the commitment of time of, taking vacation. Like I see a lot of players take vacations with other players that are close friends. And or just take vacations just to take vacations, or just hang out just to hang out. Like I never did that. But
Why,
it was a
why not
choice.
though? Why didn't you do that?
Well, because when I retire, I didn't want to have to say, I wish I would have done more. I don't want that. I don't want that.
Alter ego. Let's do alter ego, and then I want to kind of go into the story side and how you went into the storytelling. And you went in, guys, this guy won an Academy Award. He's a basketball player. How the hell does that make any sense, right? Wins a freaking Academy Award, right? So, alter ego. Sometimes we are so worried about what other people think about us. It's like, oh my gosh, what if they think I'm crazy? What if they think I'm over obsessive or competitive? And what if this is like, you're too much? This is just not healthy for you to be thinking this way, right?
Yeah.
How did you get your mindset into this alter ego to be comfortable being Black Mamba? Like, how did that happen?
It's a good separation for me, emotionally, to be able to put myself in a place where at practice or when I'm training or during games, I switch my mind to something else. I switch my mode into something else, right? For me, it's the equivalent of Maximus Decimus Meridius in Gladiator picking up the dirt, smelling the dirt. It's go time, right? So that was my mental switch. It was like an actor getting ready for a film. You got to put yourself in that cage. When you're in that cage, you are that character. And then when you leave there, it's something completely different. But when I'm in that cage, bro, don't fucking touch me. Don't talk to me. Just leave me alone. There used to be certain games, like for like certain key games. I don't think I've ever said this before. This kind of makes me seem very psychotic, but whatever. I used to play the Halloween theme song over and over and over in my headphones.
Pre-game. Seriously.
Seriously. And it was important that it was Michael Myers because the mask itself was void of emotion. Void of emotion. It has
That's
nothing to do with
psychotic at the
pressure. It has
highest
nothing
level.
to do with hype. Has nothing to do with camaraderie. It's stone cold killer. And I would listen to that song over and over and over.
Wow.
That's when you know you better run because
That's what a lot of people did.
Yeah,
They
it's
saw you
gonna be-
coming out.
it's
The
gonna be a
eyes
tough
tell the
night.
story.
yeah.
So, Kobe, you've probably made in this 50-minute conversation, I don't know, 12 metaphors. So typically people that make metaphors, they're storytellers. To them, everything has to paint a picture. And from the day one, you're talking about you were very curious, right? So when you finished the last game you had, and I'll never forget, we were having a training, by the way, in Dallas, and we finished it. This was 3 years ago. And my sister and I get home. It's 12:30. I was hoping I could catch the game. It's your last game. You're playing Utah.
Yeah.
And I'm standing up the entire time. I'm getting the last 4 minutes, which is the best freaking 4 minutes. And I see you, Shaq, saying, go for 50. And then you're just going. And you're not hitting easy shots. These are not easy shots.
Right.
You hit your last shot. You scored 6. Guys, nobody has ever had a 60-point game to retire with. Like, that has never happened. Like, it's insane for this to happen. You hit your 60-point. I got to say this. My sister's in the room. Kobe, I got tears coming down and watching you when this happens because 20 years I've been following this guy. And I relate to you because in the insurance world, I take a lot of your similarity. You may be in a completely different world. I'm looking at the world here, and it's just like seeing this guy. He's so freaking determined to say, I came and gave everything I had, and I'm going to give it to the last freaking second. That's what you did. But then you leave, and you're like, no, it's good. I'm cool. You tell your story. You give your message. Everybody's flipping out. You're like, no, Kobe's going to come back. No. Kobe, and then you go into your storytelling, all this stuff. How did that disconnect and going into that going? You're still helping out a lot of players. You're always advising Laker. Jeannie calls you. Anybody calls you, you're helping out, no problem.
Sure.
But how did that adjustment go from there to all of a sudden, man, I got to go tell stories?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Because I love it. So, it started for me again in high school when I started learning about storytelling, writing, how to structure a story, how to thread together a narrative that has a bigger message, how to create compelling characters, how to take some of the emotions from my own journey and instill them into characters that inspire or teach the next generation. Therefore, they can avoid some of the pitfalls and landmines that I had to go through. Right? That's something I'm extremely passionate about. So I loved it. So it wasn't a matter of, man, I gotta put this aside. I gotta move on to something else. I was excited. I mean, I can't wait to get started. I can't wait to move on and do something else. And everybody kept saying, man, like, my wife asked me one time, we were filling out a form for school, and it said, all right, father, occupation. She's like, what am I supposed to put down? I don't know, storyteller. You want me to write storyteller on your kid's form?
Wow.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's what I'm doing. Because, dude, really? All right, fine, just put producer. I don't know, right? But during that year, everybody kept coming up to me and saying, okay, you're going to have stages of grief when you retire. You're going to go into a state of depression when you retire. And those are all normal and all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, I'm fine. Yes, of course you would say that. I said that too. I'm like, dude, fuck, man. And so after a while, I just started listening, like, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm, 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 mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And, and then my competitiveness inside was like, no, I'm going to do something in the next 20 years that is better than these last 20. You might not understand that. I'm doing that, you know? So the competitiveness kicks in.
You've gone. Same determination. What's your current work schedule look like today?
It's different because I personally am not writing every word of the novels. I am not animating the films. What I have to do now is make sure that the people that we bring in, these obsessives that we bring in, are challenging themselves to do the best job that they think they can do. That's what I'm there for, is for them to constantly look in the mirror and self-assess and challenge themselves. If we have a project and you're saying, okay, I can do that, that's not the project we want. The projects that say, I don't know if I can animate that. I don't know how to write that story. I don't know how to do that. Those are the things we want, because through that curiosity, you'll reach a level that you didn't think was possible. Mm-hmm. And so running the studio, that's what I'm doing.
Are you a big movie guy?
You're huge.
Okay, so how do you watch movies? Like, my experience is people watch movies in many different ways. Not everybody watches movies the same way. When you're watching movies, how are you watching a movie?
I watch them multiple times, and I wear different hats every time. So the first time I watch it just as a fan for pure entertainment value. Then I watch it from the director's lens and see why he made some of the decisions, or she made some of the decisions that she made for the film. Mm-hmm. And then I look at the lighting.
Lighting?
Oh, yeah.
Like
lighting's extremely important.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Then
I listen to the music. And then you can challenge yourself by really understanding the director's point of view if you watch a film without music and without sound. Then you can actually see the film for what it is. So I watch it at different stages.
I mean, obviously, Academy Awards that you won, the gentleman you hired for the sound, wasn't it John?
John Williams?
John
Williams,
did the music,
right?
And John Williams is like the GOAT in his world.
Bro, he's the modern day Beethoven.
Yeah.
And this guy's composed any song right now that you can remember from a film, he's done. Superman theme, did that. Indiana Jones, did that. Jaws, did that. Harry Potter, did that. The Olympics theme, did that too. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And, he's like 85 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
he's doing the new Star Wars film now. Oh, Star Wars too, that part. He did that one too. Yeah.
So when you say recruiting and putting your team together with your projects today, who are you recruiting? Like, if you're putting a basketball team together, you need a GM, president, trainers, all this stuff, assistant, good coach. What do you need right now when you put?
Like, for example, right now, building out an animation house, right? So you got to start with the head of the snake. You got to look at the person that's better understands the type of animation that you want to create. And they have to be obsessives, have to have a knowledge base, a historical knowledge base, because I love people that understand the history of their industry, ins and outs of it all. Mm-hmm. And then you bring that person into the picture, and then you allow them to do what you brought them in to do.
So you leave them alone, kind of like Phil left you guys alone to do.
I'm not going to hire you to tell you how to do your job.
Got it.
So what's it like to be you? I mean, very few people. I mean, Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Joe Montana, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, are at the pinnacle and can walk around with this moniker of the best basketball player on the planet, the best anything on the planet. You don't have a moment really to yourself. it's impossible to have a conversation with you anytime unless we're sitting in your home because there's a crush. Everybody wants your time. So I'm just wondering, how do you handle that, and what's it like to walk around as you?
Well, it's there's that aspect to it, but there's also the aspect where you really have an opportunity to make a lot of people happy. They come up to you in the street, shake your hand. They want to talk about being at the 81-point game or the 60-point game, and you get a chance to make a lot of people happy. So it's easy to look at the negative side of those things, but I think the positives vastly outweigh the negatives.
Did you suffer because you were so myopic, the tunnel vision, and wanting to attain your goals?
Suffer.
No friends?
Yeah.
No. These are his words, folks,
Yeah.
not mine.
A lot of that's tongue in cheek. I mean, it's obviously I have friends.
I know you did, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
It takes a lot to have a friend. It takes time.
Yeah.
You have to have an investment.
Sure. It's these are choices. Like I made a conscious choice to go after my passion obsessively. Like, it's a conscious decision. So it's not like, you missed out on that, you missed out on that. Like, no, I made a choice to consciously miss out on those things because I'd much rather be here.
It's more about the sacrifice, I guess, is the question.
But that's my point. It's not a sacrifice to me.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's not a sacrifice. Like, this is my choice. Like, I'd rather do this. Like, if you put a bowl of ice cream in front of the kid and a plate of broccoli, the kid's probably going to eat the ice cream, right? And so to me, the game is the ice cream. To some people on the outside, all this hard work looks like broccoli. It's all perspective.
You had a lot of ice cream in a different way.
A lot of ice cream.
How much do you detest a lack of hard work and despise lazy?
It drives me crazy. I don't understand it. But at the same time, I talk to my kids about hard work and stuff, and I say, honey, you can either be the lion or you can be the gazelle. Nature needs both. Right? So you got to have hardworking people. You have to have lazy people. It's the balance of all things, right? So I'd much rather you be the lion. But if you want to be the gazelle, honey, be the fastest gazelle in the world,
How did your kids take that conversation?
I'll be the lion. I'll ask my girl. All right.
So when you saw that you couldn't motivate others and they were lazy or they didn't put out the same effort that you had in yourself and expected in them, how did you respond?
Well, I go up to Phil's office and Mitch's office, and we have a nice salary cap conversation about how we can move these players and get them out of there, pack them up and move them out.
So you were the general manager.
Well, no, but I was the one that was like, listen, at the end of the day, when the career is said and done, I'd be damned if I lose these championships because I'm playing with a bunch of lazy dudes. This is not happening. Right. So either this train is going this way, one way or the other. You're going to be on it, or you're going to be off it, or you're going to be under it. Right. It's just it is what it is. It is what it is. So if I like to motivate players to be better. I don't want to have to motivate you to get in the gym in the first place. If I have to motivate you to get in the gym in the first place, you're probably playing basketball because it was easy for you, or whatever other reason. That's not your true calling. That's not your true passion. Maybe it was something else. Mm-hmm. And, I just want to help you find it someplace else. So I'm really like doing them a favor.
How would you describe yourself as a teammate?
Well, extremely unselfish, as you just saw. Like, I'm helping them out. So, I mean, what more can I do, man?
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Amplify on that if you would. Would you put your arm around a guy? Was it always tough love? How would you go about it?
So you have to balance those things. So, every teammate responds differently, right? Like, Powell responds differently. You have to be able to push Powell and needle Powell a little bit, understand when to put your arm around him and talk to him. You know, it's a fine dance. I mean, you can't treat them all equally. And it goes back to listening. You have to be able to listen to the guys and understand who they are as people, what their journey has been to get to this point. And then from that, you can make decisions in the moment of how to respond to certain situations with them.
How did you do that with Shaq?
Well, with Shaq, it was interesting. With Shaq, I had to challenge Shaq all the time. All the time. I mean, we'd be in practice and, Mark Madsen, who was on the second team, and, Mark would be, Mark's like full of energy all the time. And like we're coming off of a back-to-back, and Phil never gave us days off, right? We show up to practice, and Mark's just running into Shaq, and just, Shaq's just trying not to get hurt at this point. And, I would just go to Phil and say, Phil, hey, put me on the second team. So he put me on the second team, and now I'm playing with Mark, and all it takes is just one thing. I said, Shaq, you are not the most dominant center of all time. You're not even the best player on the team. Then that's it. Then all of a sudden it's trash talking all day. The physicality of the practice goes to another level. And, poor Mark, he just like demolished poor Mark after that. But that's how we
But you were being serious, weren't you? He was kidding on the level, but there was a serious vein to this.
Well, you can't talk trash and say things that are just unrealistic. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll play in, there was a game in Utah during the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day. And I'm taking the ball out of bounds. It's like the fourth quarter, and the fan yells behind me, goes, Kobe, you're garbage. I turned around, I said, dude, be more creative. Like we both know that's not true. Like say something that's kind of somewhat realistic, that can like needle me a little bit. Like,
so what's the best thing you heard from a fan? That guy in Washington, did he drive you crazy?
No, I was too young for that. Like I was on the bench. I watched him drive everybody else crazy. But when 2005, 2006, I would get, you can't win without Shaq. Okay. I had no response, right? So I had to just bide my time until. But I remember that fan. He was in Sacramento. I do. I sat right behind the scorer's table.
With the cowbell?
After 2009, I went back and said, hey, I see you. Yep.
And there's.
Okay, we now welcome on a very special guest. He doesn't need an introduction, but we'll introduce him anyway. 18-time All-Star, 5-time NBA champion. It is Kobe Bryant. We're here at your offices in Newport Beach, and it is the Corp. I'm with, obviously, A-Rod. And I want to start present day and then go backwards.
Sure.
So you have gone from being a transcendent athlete to an unbelievable businessman, and it's very similar to what A-Rod has been doing with the A-Rod Corp.
Yeah.
Mostly from my help. But have you noticed, do you attack business the same way as sports? And have you ever had a moment where you're like, I got to chill out because the business world's not like the sports world?
No, the same, but also different, right? Same in the sense that the attention to detail is there, just like it is in sport, the attention to detail. Right, but it's different because of the intensity that you bring. It's not like a game. It's not like practice, right? You have to have patience. You have to challenge people. You have to hire well and find people that have a certain level of, that demand excellence from themselves, right? And have that attention to detail about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wind up building a team of people that have that passion and commitment to excellence. So that's the difference, is that now I'm kind of more in a GM position as opposed to being a player that is on the ground floor bringing out the intensity in each guy every single play. It's a little different.
Have you noticed a moment where you're like, I can't be as intense as I was during sports. I can't demand people to be here till midnight or practice without a ball for 3 hours. Or
listen, my thing is really simple here, is that, I expect excellent work. We all do. So I don't care if you're here in the office at 6 a.m. and you leave at midnight. If the work that you do is average, then this is not the home for you. Conversely, you cannot be in an office at all and have excellent work. This is the place for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really care if you're here. You know, there's a lot of guys that get in the gym and work hard, but then they can't transition that to 7:30.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
I can already tell that I wouldn't make it one day in this office. Like I'm really good at looking busy, but not doing anything. So that would be a problem.
You gotta get results.
So Kobe, one of the things that I've been super impressed with by watching kind of your organization, how you transitioned, is really the team that you surround yourself with. You know, whether it's from Brian to Molly to the rest of your team. What are the characteristics that you're looking for to bring into your team? Is it much like you want a teammate for the Lakers, those type of, or what are you looking for specifically?
Yeah, the most important thing is curiosity first. I want curious people that ask questions, that want to figure things out, figure out new ways to do things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the most important thing. And then from that curiosity, having the determination to see that curiosity through, right? To figure out those steps. And if you figure out, okay, this is a particular course of action that we feel like we should be taking. Has it been done before? No, but that's exciting to me. Let's figure it out. Those are the characteristics that I look for, first and foremost.
So you say curiosity. I read a story how you like text with business people 3 a.m, 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Mike Rapoli, I think you do it with people in the tech industry.
Yeah.
Has anyone been like, yo, Kobe, just chill out? Like, stop texting me.
No,
at 3
because
a.m.
they're all about as crazy as I am.
Yeah. What is that though? Is there can you see it in a person the minute you meet them? Like this guy or this woman, they just want it more than everyone else.
I think so. I think you can sense it. You can, when you're having a conversation with somebody, you can tell if they're truly passionate about what it is that they're doing. Yeah.
Do I have it?
Listen, bro, you can't build what you build and not be that. Right? If you didn't have it, you wouldn't be sitting here with everybody anyway, because you don't put up with that shit either.
True. I've kind of
Right?
snaked my way in. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can certainly recognize that, and you feel a sense of familiarity with that person.
You said, I read a quote that you said you love business as much as basketball. There's no way that's true.
It's 100% true.
There's no way. Basketball was your life, your passion, everything. You're telling me you love doing business as much. If you could, basically snap a finger and be 25-year-old Kobe or the Kobe today, you wouldn't go back and keep playing basketball?
No, because I've already done it. See, here's the thing. When I was playing and teammates would say, oh, Kobe's not out on the road. What is he doing? You see me on the plane, he's reading. What is he reading? He's writing. What is he writing? I'm practicing. I'm writing. I'm practicing. I'm understanding how to tell stories. I'm reading Joseph Campbell and how to create arcs, compelling arcs and plots. I'm reading that stuff. So this is going back 15 years, right? So I don't just retire, write Dear Basketball, and luck into winning an Oscar. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That stuff comes from hard work and from studying for 15 years how to write and how to organize structure, right? And you can't do that without having a serious love or commitment to the craft.
And that's, Alex has told the story, but your rookie year in Seattle when you started investing in real estate and basically while you were playing baseball, also getting, working in business and learning the ropes in business.
Yeah, I know. Kobe and I have so much in common. We kind of came up at the same time. But one of the things we have in common is we would show up at universities. And I know he would show up at Duke. I took classes at Columbia Business School, Miami Business School. And people are like, why aren't you on a yacht? Why aren't you on vacation? I'm like, I'm practicing. I am getting ready. I don't know when they're going to kick me out of this game. And at the same time, it's not just about moving forward, but also it's about having fun. I agree with Kobe. I sometimes forget that I played basketball in the major leagues baseball for 23 years. Yeah. Because I'm so excited in the moment, being present.
That sounds really weird to people.
Right.
They think we're lying.
It does.
It's really
I
weird.
feel like you're
How's
lying.
that possible? There's no way, man. Like I remember I said, I told somebody, I said, listen, if what I do in the next 20 years is not better than my last 20, then I failed. And they're like, well, that's disrespectful to what you've done the last 20 years. How could you say? My man, I wouldn't accomplish what I accomplished my last 20 years if I did not have this mentality to begin with. So
yeah, it does sound. I think to the average person like myself, it's it's crazy because obviously a dream when you were a kid was to play professional sports, so you couldn't imagine anything higher than that. Yeah. And then you guys obviously lived it, and then you move on, and it's like, well, this is the next chapter. I want to go back real quick though, Duke. Where would you have ranked on the most hated Duke players if you had gone to Duke?
Probably number one.
Probably not more than Christian Laettner. Yeah, maybe 2, 3. You would have gone to Duke though?
Well, here's the story about that is Coach K kept recruiting me. He kept recruiting me. He didn't just resign to the fact that I'm going to go pro. He was persistent about it. So at that moment in time, for me to make a decision and say, okay, you know what, I'm not going to go pro, it would have been Duke because Coach K just kept on, kept it on. Roy Williams did too when he was at Kansas. Dean Smith did not. Dean sent me a letter, and he was like, hey, listen, this is a home for you, but from what I hear, you're good enough to go pro, and you probably will, so I don't want to waste your time. But, this is a home for you if you ever want to take a visit here and, and change your mind or whatever.
How about Bobby Knight?
I did get a letter from Bobby Knight, but that wasn't something that, I was.
I would imagine he
excited.
does like reverse psychology, like you stink, Kobe. You could never play for me.
Yeah, that's Phil Jackson does that too.
Yeah, right.
By the way, he just does it through the media.
So that's interesting though, because you obviously was it a hard decision? Like, I'm going pro, or did you just know? Because A-Rod obviously did the same thing.
Yeah.
As a young kid, 17, 18, going to be a pro athlete.
It was a tough decision. I ultimately, the key factor for me wasn't whether or not I was ready. It was the fact that if I wasn't ready, I was determined to figure out how to get ready. And ultimately, even if I was ready, I still need to improve anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the work's not going to stop. And it was just a matter of, do you want to come to the league and learn from the best? And I'm doing the math in my head. I'm looking at Stockton, how many years he's playing, Drexler, how many years he's playing, MJ, how many years more he's playing, Hakeem. And these are players that I studied growing up. And the best way to learn from them is to have that jump off of the film, jump off of the page, and see it face to face. That's the best way to learn, because it was like a database. I had everything in my mind of what they could do, what they didn't like to do, where they did it, when they did it. Now, if I could see that up close, that is the greatest form of education that I could possibly receive. So that's when I was like, no, I'm going to go pro.
So that's interesting, because I think there's a sports debate that's had a lot where it's more happens in the NFL, where a quarterback comes out and people will say, well, he was in the wrong system and his offensive line stunk right away and it kind of ruined his career. Do you think, with what you just said, it sounds like you think that if you're going to make it, you're going to make it no matter what? Yeah. And there's no like, oh, well, things didn't go your way the first year and it ruined the trajectory of your career. It's either you have it or you don't.
That sounds like excuses to me. I mean, you got to figure it out, right? If you really have an obsession to figure it out, you will figure it out, right? And every puzzle is constructed differently. All right, AI's situation when he came into the league was different than mine. Mike's situation in Chicago was different than mine. Right, everybody has a different puzzle, man. You just got to figure out your own puzzle.
It's interesting to think about, like the sliding doors of, like, if you stay at Charlotte, right. Or if you know what I mean,
right.
Or we can talk about it now. The Bulls. I've always been intrigued because I'm a Bulls fan, and there were two different times where it was like Kobe's coming to the Bulls.
Yeah, and
in 2004, 2007. Even in 2007, it was even into the season. I remember you had that video too, like, buy a Bulls jersey, fellas.
Yeah.
Like saying, if you want to be a Kobe fan, when you were thinking about going to the Bulls, there's always this narrative no one wants to play in Michael's shadow. Were you thinking, no, I want to be in Chicago and go past Michael?
No, I was thinking, like, if you're going to be a great franchise, you have to have multiple great players. That's what the Lakers have done. You don't hear that narrative in LA.
Yeah.
You had Jerry, you have Elgin, you had Magic, you had myself, you had Kareem, you had Shaq. I mean, you got LeBron. I mean, it's just one of those franchises that continue. Yankees too.
Yep.
Right? So why are the Bulls any different?
Right.
Just because you had Michael, now everybody's intimidated to go play by it. That's ridiculous.
Well, I obviously think the narrative is basically made so that the front office can get a pass for never signing anyone big. That's really what it comes down to.
That's probably true.
But you were ready to do it. True. I mean, was there a part of you mentally that was like, I'm going to be a Bull?
Yeah. Like we were planning, looking at homes, schools, the whole thing.
That's crazy.
Wow.
The whole thing, man.
Yeah.
So, I know that Jerry West, Michael Jordan was like a big brother to you.
Yeah.
Brian Shaw, I know there's a lot of people that influenced you in a big way, and we're going to get to that. But in the business community, some of the titans you've talked to, tell us some of the people you've learned from the most and some of the people that have mentored you the most and some of the people you look up to.
Yeah, so the people I've learned from the most, when I had the idea of first starting a studio, the first person I called was Oprah Winfrey. And we sat on the phone about an hour and a half, 2 hours, went through the history of building Harpo and things that she felt she did well, things that she felt like she didn't do so well, and kind of walked me through her journey, to help me on mine. Another person is Mark Parker, CEO of Nike. He and I speak often. I mean, he's really helped me through a lot of decisions. Tim Cook and Johnny Ives, Apple. Or so I would say those three are the biggest ones that have had the most influence in what I'm currently building now.
Any common theme between those three that you kept saying? They keep saying the same similar
The
thing.
amount of mistakes that are made, right? Because we tend to look at them and say, okay, they don't make mistakes, they don't make bad decisions, and that couldn't be any further from the truth. You all make mistakes, you all make decisions, and you just continue to plow forward. You continue to figure it out.
So I wanted to touch on the evolution of you as a teammate. In 2004, Phil Jackson writes the book.
Yeah.
And is like, Kobe's uncoachable.
I'm still waiting on my royalties on that.
Yeah, he says Kobe's uncoachable. What was your reaction in that moment when you see that, you read that, a guy that you have a relationship with, you had success with?
I was frustrated by it. You know what I mean? Because it was always a type of relationship where it was like, for me, it's just come at me direct. Like, I'm right here. You don't have to BS me. We can just hash this out, you and me. And he would rather not do that because that's uncomfortable, right? He'd rather go to the media and do it. So a lot of the stuff that I read in the book was the first time I've ever heard any of this stuff. And I'm like, dude, I'm literally right here.
Right.
So when he came back, that's one of the things that he said. He apologized for. He was like, listen, I understand. We should just have a direct relationship. And that's how we were able to kind of move forward. But it was really frustrating, man.
The apology is good, but the royalty would be nice too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I told him, I said, this is like your third book on me now, dude.
Right.
Like,
Just
come
keep
on,
writing
man.
books.
Like,
I'm gonna
dude.
write a book on this, like 45 minutes.
Yeah. Like, where's my royalty check?
It's gonna be great. Was there any truth to it though? Do you think, was there a moment when you read that and you had to, kind of take a look at yourself and be like, maybe I am not the best teammate? Because there's always this really interesting line to me when you're watching, athletes at their highest level.
Yeah.
A guy who is a clear alpha leader, he runs the team. There's that line of, is he from like his ego is out of control to he just wants the most out of people?
Right.
Like Michael Jordan punched Steve Kerr in the face. Like, there's stories of you pushing your teammates and maybe getting some of them kind of crumble in the moment.
Yeah.
Did you see that and kind of reflect and say, hey, maybe I need to do this differently?
Well, I think there's a couple answers to that. So, drive a hard bargain. The people that I've always had issues or problems with are the people that don't demand excellence from themselves. I won't tolerate that. So when the career is said and done, they're not going to be looking at you, a player on his team, and saying, you didn't win a championship. No, they're going to be looking here. Right. So it's my responsibility to make sure everybody's holding themselves accountable. I'm holding you accountable. If we just played a back-to-back and we have practice the next day, your ass better be there, tape ready to go. Right. Because I'm there and I'm ready. And I just got finished lifting weights for 2 hours. Right. So I hold guys to a higher standard, and I don't sugarcoat stuff. Never have, never will. Right. And that tends to rub some people the wrong way. Now, teams that we won championships on, me and all of those guys, still close to this day. Extremely close, right? Lamar and I still close.
Fisher,
Shannon Brown, D. Fish, all of my guys.
Shaq.
We're all Shaq, right? Even Shaq. Powell.
Did you win a championship with Smush Parker? No.
Okay, he and I don't talk, by the way.
I was going to say that answers that question.
That's one of the people that would probably say I was a bad teammate.
Yeah.
Well, but most of the other guys, man, that you wind up having this bond. So, you can't have those kind of relationships with guys years after playing with them and be a bad teammate.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's
funny. I want to piggyback on that because it is so true. I wasn't as fortunate to win that many championships or as good to win as many championships as Kobe. But in 2009, that roster, they're like 24 brothers. And to this day, if one of them texts me right back, within 5 minutes, I'm hitting them back because you build this incredible bond that only if you're one of the, in our case, 25, I think 12 in your case, is this bond that never goes away. And all of a sudden you become a good teammate.
Yeah.
You become nice, you become this. But it's a hard line between the best leaders are not always the most popular ones. And I think sometimes people have a hard time determining.
They do. And I'll give you a story of the stuff that was frustrating. And the whole selfishness stuff and all that stuff was frustrating. Phil would come to me and say, there was a year there in 2003 where I had 40 points in 9 straight games, right? Shaq was out. It was a toe thing. So Phil comes to me before the stretch and says, Kobe, we need you to take over the offense. I'm like, all right, cool. So that literally,
Say no more.
I got it. Fine, I got it. So that literally started the streak of 40 straight games, 40 points in 9 straight games. Shaq comes back from injury and Phil goes, I still continue to do it, right? And then Phil calls me to his office, goes, hey, we're starting to lose the big fella. What do you mean? Well, he's not getting the attention. This 40-point streak is starting to kind of take away his fire to prove something, right? So I need you to start dialing it back. I'm like, what? He says, we're going to lose him, and we need him in June. Okay. All right. You have a game against the Clippers. I think I had like 38 or something like that. And I had a chance to score 40 again. It was a blowout game. I dumped the ball in the Shaq instead of shooting a wide open shot. The 40-point streak ended that night.
Wow.
That was it. And that's inside stuff that people don't know.
Right.
So you sent me, you went to
people
Phil's
don't
office
know.
and said, are you happy
Yes.
now?
Yeah.
Because Phil was like, hey, we got to dial it back. We're starting to lose the big fella.
Perfect Kobe too. He's like, you got to dial it back. You're like, all right, I'll score 38 instead of 40.
Well, I mean, this is the streak thing. It would have been 10 in a row. Would have
Right.
broke a record.
Right.
Right. I would have broke the record. But instead,
What do you think? I mean,
Great story.
your relationship with Shaq, I feel like, is one of the most intriguing relationships in all pro sports.
Yeah.
Were you guys ever at a point where you just wouldn't even speak?
No, because we were very, very direct. Like I said before, I'm very straightforward, right? I don't care if you're 7'2" or 6'2". If I got an issue with you, I'm going to let you know.
Mm-hmm.
So no, because we're always speaking. Just sometimes it was more volatile than others.
Right.
But we're always speaking, always direct.
Yeah. So, and when that all falls apart, I mean, what was your biggest, where would you say the biggest problem with your communication? Was it, Shaq not coming to
It wasn't
season in shape?
Well, it's funny. When we sat down, we did the interview together. He finally copped to the fact that after we won championships, he was like, okay, I can just relax and coast over the summer because I know I got a teammate who's going to be training 8-10 hours a day. I was like, see, that's the BS.
That would piss me off.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Right.
That's the issue. But also it became it's not something that we couldn't have worked out either. Because we've been doing it, right? But I got to a point in my career where it was the rumblings, and some of it created by him that, Kobe can't win without me. And it was like, hold up. No, it's not true.
Right.
It's not true.
Right.
And I'm not going to retire and have people hold that over my head. I said, no, let's find out.
Yeah.
So it was just time to go separate ways.
So that really did bother you. And it's interesting because in today's NBA, I mean, you see a guy like Kevin Durant go to Golden State.
Yeah.
You would never have made that move.
No, I wouldn't have. But, different strokes for different folks, man. When I was coming up, it was Kobe can't win without Shaq. But I've never heard that argument made about Magic and Kareem.
Right.
Or Michael and Pip.
Right.
But that was the thing being thrown my way. And I was like, all right, well, it is what it is. Let's see.
Do you think that you got criticized more than a guy like Kevin Durant or the guys who are playing now?
No, at the moment, it's all different according to the moment in time, right? It always seems like more when you're in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's no more, no less. I think now with social media, things tend to perpetuate much, much faster. But back then, conversely, the stories tend to sit a lot longer.
Right.
There's less fires coming.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you understand on social media that you have the craziest fan base of all time?
I understand that my fans are very passionate.
The Kobe stands are insane. They're insane.
Yeah. I have a passionate following.
Like, they are insane. Whenever the MJ LeBron thing comes up, the Kobe stands, they poke out their head out from under a bush and they're like, just attack you.
Yeah, well, I have passionate fans.
Was there a part of you when LeBron came here seeing maybe some of the Lakers fans be like, no, Kobe's our guy? Did that? I mean, obviously you want to welcome LeBron, but it shows your impact on the team, the organization.
No, I mean, my impact on this organization is to look forward. If I've taught this fan base anything, is that we want excellence, we want championships, and it's about the purple and gold. It's not about one player. I came in here with Magic, and Magic embraced me with open arms, as did Kareem and Worthy and everybody else, and Jerry West and Elgin and all those guys. It's our responsibility to do the same thing for the next generation that comes in. And I take that stuff deadly seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, no, guys, we need more championships.
Yeah.
Talking about deadly serious, I mean, all you got to do in any conversation, if it's getting boring, all you got to say is Kobe LeBron, Kobe Michael, Kobe, any of that. And I've been a Michael guy my whole life.
Yeah,
Magic guy.
he's the GOAT.
And
Who's
then
the GOAT?
See, that's the type of immature question.
Yeah,
No, it's
people
not.
ask.
It's who's the GOAT. I'm the regular sports fan. This is what we talk about.
I know this is what regular fans talk about. I get it.
You don't. So you're saying?
Was it your goal to be the best basketball player on the planet?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Did you achieve that?
Well, it's funny. Like as a kid, I was growing up and saying I want to be the greatest that ever played, right? And then as you get older, you start understanding that there's no real answer to that, right? And I found a lot of comfort once I realized that my goal really is to be the best player I can be. And then what that means helping my teammates be the best players that they can be. And once I figured that out, then my game went to another level.
When did you figure that out, and how did you figure that out? What was the transformation?
Trial and error. It was a process. I mean, you keep banging your head into a wall. Eventually you're going to try to look for the door and the key. And so that's what I had to do. And it was a lot of research for me. It was a lot of reading. It was a lot of studying. It was a lot of listening and try to really figure out what makes people tick and how do you motivate your teammates. I mean, it's one thing to say, do this, do that, but how do you really motivate them to the point where they feel where they're the ones asking the questions of how to improve themselves? Like, how do you help somebody flip the switch within themselves to want to reach their full potential? And that's really the dance.
So you're banging your head against this wall and this door. Are you saying at that time you were stubborn?
I'm stubborn now. I mean, I'm just a little less stubborn. I'm stubborn with a greater sense of perspective. How about that?
When they came to you with questions, how did you know how to motivate and who you could push and who you couldn't? Was that also trial and error?
Yeah, it is, and it was. But for the most part, what I had to become better at was just listening. Just listen, right? The guys they'll tell you how they're feeling. They'll tell you, where their insecurities lie, where their strengths are, and you just have to listen and have to really understand it. And it's hard in professional sports because, like, if you watch a game, you watch teams warm up, right? You'll see players. Most of the players are really locked in internally, like they're locked into their own situation, their routine, right? And what I started doing is I started stepping back, and instead of working on this shot, that shot before a game, I started watching, what is Powell doing, what is Lamar doing, what's D-Fish doing. You can kind of see, what their temperament is. So it's listening, and it's also observing and taking that all into account.
Let's go back to Shaq for a moment. Did it work in terms of motivation, and did you get more out of him, or did it just cause this gulf that became so wide that it was impossible to coexist?
No, we were smart enough to understand what we were doing for each other. Like we knew that we needed each other to be successful, and the tension that we had with each other created an environment of brutal honesty. Like, my teammates felt I wasn't passing the ball to them. I didn't see them. They'd say it. If I felt like Shaq was completely out of shape, I'd say it. And so that trickled down throughout an entire organization where this brutal honesty for the goal of winning a championship was what we stood for. So from the outside, you see this tension, you see this friction, but internally, we understand that this is getting us to this place. So it worked just fine.
So then what caused the ultimate fracture?
You can't win without Shaq. Dude, seriously, right? So it's that challenge that created that separation eventually because, I read a story where Shaq said that, I couldn't win without him. And once I saw that, I was like, okay.
You were done.
Yeah, we'll see. Because, I felt like I had a lot more in there. And, I wasn't going to retire without knowing if I could have.
So you satisfied what you wanted to do on your own. Now do you look back and you say, that was good that I did that? Or do you feel somewhat maybe remorseful or melancholy that perhaps if you'd have stayed together, you'd have had even more?
No, I'm happy I have 5 and he has 4. I'm okay with that.
And how are you all today?
fantastic, because I have 5, he has 4. So, so we're all good. No, I mean, we see each other. We catch up all the time. You know, he asks me about my kids. I ask him about his. And it's great, man.
Mm-hmm. During that period, though, things were not easy. There was also a gulf and a problem with your coach, Phil Jackson, who I know you have the ultimate respect for, but there was a time that, and I'll just say what you told me, you'd like to choke this guy when he wrote that book.
Oh, no question. No question. But looking back now, the thing that I wish I could have done differently is structure some kind of business arrangement. We're selling all these damn books about me. At least let me get a royalty on it.
Now you can have your own book, to tell the truth. Are you going to do that?
No, I don't do that. I got other stuff to do.
But when he wrote those things, I think a lot of people think that professional athletes don't have feelings. And so when something is written or said about you, that it just rolls right off. And maybe that does with certain writers and certain people, but when it's your coach, it has to sting and hurt. How did you react to that?
Yeah, it did. But you know, by that time, I was really, really good at taking negative things and just refocusing them. Right. So it didn't linger. It didn't. I used those things to help me get up at 4 a.m. and hit the track, and then hit the weights, and then get the shots. Like, I use that as a source of motivation for me. So no matter what's said, be it positive or be it negative, when you have the point of view that no matter what is said, it's going to do nothing but fuel my passion, then you really, there's nothing anybody can say that's really going to take you backwards. You know what I mean? Because you just use it all. So
I want to amplify on that, and by doing so, let's take a look at the symphony commercial.
I've been hating you too long to stop now.
You're retiring, but you want to be free.
My hate was growing stronger as you became a habit to me. Don't make me stop now. I hate you
That's brilliant. Was that your idea?
the core of it, yes. So once we sat around, I came up with the idea of what hero villain represents. From that center, an idea that originated in Kobe Inc., then it became very easy to parcel those things off to our various partners, Nike and so forth, right? But the idea starts with us at its core of what the hero villain is, and then from that, things can be created.
Explain the hero villain.
Hero villain is a simple philosophy of how do you channel the villain to unleash the hero? How to use darkness to create greatness? That's the premise of it.
So why do you think you were booed, particularly that night in Philadelphia? And we did the interview together at the All-Star game. And you played very well, and you're from Philadelphia, and the boos are pouring down while we're doing this interview and while you're wrapping up the game. And it set me back, and I'm not you.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so what are you thinking while this is going on, and are you wondering why?
No, that's tough. I mean, Philly's booed Santa Claus before. Seriously, like literally. So no, I mean it's
But you're still young and impressionable at that time, or at least, not the warrior, travel hardened guy.
No, but that drive was still there, man. That you know, um, taking those negative experiences and using them, that was always there, right? So once I had that, once I embraced it, I used it. I used it.
Was there a model you followed, perhaps Ali or somebody who you'd seen have this sort of circumstance?
Not one in particular, but I used to read a lot um, and watch a lot, and about people who have done phenomenal things or have created great things, and then try to ask, okay, how they did them, and then why, and kind of what was their journey, what's their process, and not so much like the actual executional details of how you create X, Y, and Z, but it's more so the inner journey that they go through, and from that I was able to learn a lot myself. But I was always, still now, I mean, reading a lot and learning a lot.
Like what? What type of books? What type of material?
People.
Mm-hmm.
The journey that people go through. Like, what is the inner conversation that they have, the inner monologue? How do each of us navigate through our own insecurities, right? Our own moments of doubt, right? And then when you have those doubts, understanding where do those doubts come from in the first place, And I think once you understand that, then really you can create anything you want. It's just a matter of first how to navigate the journey of the self. And once you have that, you can be dropped into any industry whatsoever and you can figure it out.
We see you as a real confident guy. You'll take every last shot. You'll go out and you'll take 50 shots. What doubts do you have about yourself internally?
I've never, doubt is such a strange thing. I mean, it's, there'll be times where you succeed and there are times that you fail. And so wasting your time doubting whether you're going to be successful or not is pointless. It is. I mean, you just put one foot in front of the other. You control what you can't control. And then you see what the outcome is, right? If you win, great. You're going to have to wake up the next day and do the journey over again. If you lose, it sucks, but you're going to have to wake up the next day and do the journey all over again anyway, right? So it's really pointless to sit here and debate or have doubt or this, that, and the other. You train as hard as you can, and you step out there and you let it flow.
How much did the losses bother you?
Well, they bothered me, but then I was able to let them go.
Big losses, championship losses, Pistons, 2004.
Yeah, you let them go. And what I did is I learned from them. Very specific things. Like, against the Pistons, we didn't execute well enough to beat the Detroit Pistons. I don't want to get all basketball techie or whatever, but I can't help myself. So if you watch the series, the Pistons brought pressure full court, right, which forced us to stretch our offense. Mm-hmm. In order to stretch the triangle offense, you really have to be sharp. Like, you have to understand what the sequences of options are, stone cold, to run at 94 feet. And we weren't ready to do that. If you look at the series, you compare that to Larry Brown in Philadelphia when we played him in 2001, and he tried to apply the same pressure, we beat the hell out of him because that team was extremely well prepared to execute that. And I point the finger at myself, and I put my teammates in those right positions from day one so that we were ready for that in case that happened.
Are you a perfectionist?
For better or for worse, yeah.
So was your experience a joyous occasion, or did you become, like many people who touch perfection, can never really totally harness it? Nobody can. So were you tortured by the journey?
No, well, I'm realistic. I'm a realistic perfectionist. How about that?
It's pretty good.
I understand and know that perfection can never be attained, but it sure is a hell of a lot of fun trying to get it.
But some of your brethren, in fact, people who you're close to, drives them so crazy that they can't function. Tiger Woods, an unbelievable 15-year run, mm-hmm. and dominant like we've never seen, mm-hmm. but it was totally joyless. Each step was a struggle. It becomes hard. I mean, so how did you know how to become realistic as a perfectionist?
Well, because I know that perfection isn't a real thing. Like, there's some people in this world who are like just insanely competitive about everything, right? So like, if you come up to me and say, "Hey, let's play ping pong," and let's bet $5 on this ping pong game, and I watch you play and you're better than I am, I'm good. I'm not gonna play. I can't beat you. Why the hell am I gonna do that, right? Michael and I had this conversation recently. He said, "Okay, now that you're retiring, you can come out with me and play golf." I said, "No." He said, "You're gonna have to play golf." Yeah, not with you though. I mean, because I've been playing since college. Like, you want to get me out there and just kill me? Like, no, I'm not a golfer. I'm not going to play. I'm a realist.
So take us inside what your conversations with Michael would be, because you guys are one and two of a kind.
It's like a big brother. From the second time I played him in 1998, and I asked him a couple questions, and he gave me some very detailed responses. And he said, "Hey, I'm gonna send over my number. If you need anything, just call." And to this day, I call him for anything. He calls me right back, and we'll have very in-depth conversations. And he'll share whatever it is that he's learned over his career, be it leadership or how to chase guys off the screens. I mean, he's been a fantastic mentor.
Leadership's an interesting question. How did you know when to lead and when to be passive?
All right, I'm gonna give a very weird answer to that. Just like stay with me for a second. So my wife and I went on vacation. This was after 2008 finals where we lost to the Celtics. And we went on vacation in France, and we're walking around. And the thing that was really beautiful to me was how beautiful everything was, how beautiful nature was, the flower, the trees, everything was just gorgeous. And my mind got to thinking, well, I noticed the beauty of these things in their elements, but these things cannot be beautiful without the sun. But yet I'm not sitting here and saying, wow, the sun is so beautiful, right? I'm appreciating their own standalone beauty, right? And by the same token, the sun also knows when to disappear, right? Too much of the sun becomes hazardous, right? And so that helped me understand how to lead my team, right? So when you come back in 2009 and you watch the Lakers play, you're not watching Lamar Odom play and saying, wow, he's great because Kobe's there. Kobe's making him better, right? That's not, you have to sit and watch the game and appreciate Lamar Odom in his own right, Powell in his own right. So as a leader in practice, you're there, you're helping them grow. But you also have to know when to go away, right? And let them grow on their own. And so that walk kind of helped change my perspective on how I approach leading.
So you were still learning, and that's 12 years into the journey.
Still learning now.
Yeah.
Still learning now.
So when you backed off and people would say, he's not leading.
No, I just thought they were just very stupid people.
Okay. But you read that.
Yeah.
You'd see that.
Yeah.
And obviously you read and saw a lot more than you ever indicated you read and you saw.
No, no, seriously. I just got, the commentating and the broadcasting a lot of times is just it's like very surface information. It's like things that are very easy to digest. Like, okay, you make your teammates better by passing the ball. All right, you pass it to them and they miss 30 times. I mean, that's, right? The key is not passing the ball. The key is how do you motivate them so that they stay in the gym an hour after practice, shooting shots and making shots so that when they do get the ball, they're ready to knock it down. I mean, that's making people better. Is how do you get them to want to be the best version of themselves? That's making somebody better, truly better.
So did what we say or what the media wrote piss you off?
No, I found it funny. Seriously, that wasn't like a source of motivation for me. It was always like kind of like the cherry on top. Where I can just kind of needle you guys every now and then when you guys were wrong. But it never really motivated me. If I needed it, I'd use it. But it wasn't something that drove me day in and day out.
Explain what it's like to focus and to have that vision, or maybe even a little wider than the vision of what's necessary to win?
Well, it's you watch game film and you study what the team does well, what they don't do well, what they like to run, when they like to run it, strengths, weaknesses, yada yada yada, and then from that you devise your plan, and then you go out and you try to execute that plan. And now after you have that plan, you also have to have a backup, right? Because you have to count on them making adjustments, right? So if they make adjustments, I have to be able to go to Powell and being prepared, I have to go to Powell and say, okay, they did this like we thought they were going to do, like we talked about it. Now let's go to this, right? So it's nothing more than homework. I don't have to rely on imagination or being creative to be creative. You sit down, you watch, you prepare, and the answers are literally right in front of you. Just taking the time to sit and watch it.
Was winning the only thing that mattered to you?
It was at the beginning, but after that, after a while there, and particularly after 2008, it became getting the best out of the other guys that I'm playing with. That became my mission. And funny things, once that happened, then we started winning.
It's interesting, I never was physically gifted to an extreme level. I was always really good, but I was never like the fastest or biggest or strongest. But I remember my edge was I'm not going to go party and I'm not going to drink alcohol.
Right.
So I've never been drunk still because I was like, I need every edge when guys were out partying late at night who were better than me and drinking and showing up hungover. I was like, I'm going to be more focused and have clearer vision. And but I wasn't waking up at 4 a.m. like you. So
well, that's interesting because when I played, one of the things that I had to learn is how to get the best out of my teammates.
Yeah.
And most people think it's a simple thing, passing the ball. But that's not how you make guys better. You have to really affect their behavior.
How do you do that?
So, I would tell guys, we got back-to-backs. I don't care if we're in Miami. I don't care if we're in a great city of Chicago. We can't go out. We got to get rest. Right?
Back-to-back games.
Back-to-back games, right? Monday, Tuesday. You play Monday and play again Tuesday. Guys aren't going to listen, right?
Right.
So a few times say, all right, we'll all go out. We'll go out together.
Really?
I'll drink with you, right? But the next morning, I'm banging on your door at 5 a.m. Let's go.
They're not getting
Where are we going? I hung out with you. Now you come hang out with me.
Wow.
This is what we do. All right, let's go. And we're at the gym. We're working out, right? We hit the bus. We go to practice. We play that night.
And they're dead.
They're like, lesson learned.
Really?
Lesson
So
learned.
take them out once.
Listen, if you're going to do that. But don't let that compromise what we're here to do.
Right.
This is why we're here. This is why you're here in the first place.
Yeah.
Right?
And if we're going to win a championship, we have to have that championship mentality and work ethic.
That's it. So you got to show them, no, Kobe can do that and still has the energy to get up and do this. So either I got to meet that same energy or I got to keep my butt in my
room.
Go to
bed early, yeah. Wow. What are some other things you did to rise the level of your teammates? What are some other ways that you can? And what do you think people can do in general with the business team or any sports team?
I think you have to listen. And you have to pay attention to what your colleagues or teammates are saying, and what are certain things that drive them, certain things that motivate them, that trigger them. One of my favorite ones, Powell hates it every time I tell the story. He hates it. But we lost to the Celtics in 08. And it was a physical series. I mean, they beat the crap out of us.
Yeah.
And so we go into the Olympic year that year. We wound up playing Spain for the gold medal match, and we beat them.
Uh-huh.
And so now we come back to start training camp, and Powell shows up first day of training camp. I have my gold medal hanging in his locker.
Oh, no.
And the one thing that he truly, truly loves is his country.
Of course.
That is like everything to him. So it just drove him crazy. I said, Powell, listen. He said, you're an blah, blah, blah. I said, listen, Powell, you lost to the Celtics. You lost to us in the gold medal match. Let's not make this 3 in a row this year.
Wow.
Okay?
That is
Let's
brilliant.
win this thing. And that was it for him.
And he probably stepped up at a whole nother level.
Well, Powell was a phenomenon to begin with. And then for him was just stepping up to a level of physicality that we needed him to get to, which he did. And we went on to win back-to-back championships.
My man.
Yeah.
How important is understanding human psychology and human behavior to work with a team as opposed to just relying on your gifts and talents?
It's probably the most important thing. When you're in this culture in our society, you can do some phenomenal things individually, but they'll never reach their full potential unless you do them collectively. And you have to figure out how to do that. And Phil Jackson was great at that.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil He wouldn't just coach the team or coach the game, but he'd read everything about every single player.
Really?
He'd learn about your history, how you grew up, how you were raised, where were you raised. He'll read every interview, and he'll learn about you, and gives him a better understanding of what's motivating you, or what your insecurities are, right? And then it just helps him communicate with you better, or even push a button here if he needs to.
When did you learn that it was important to understand who your teammates are, what their likes or dislikes are? Was that in high school for you or more?
No, it was, I learned it from Phil. There was a stretch in 2003 where Shaq was out with an injury. And Phil called me up to his office and said, okay, we need you to really turn on the afterburners and start scoring the ball if we have to win. So I did, and I wound up scoring, I think it was 9 straight games with 40-plus points.
9 straight?
9 straight games. And then Shaq comes back, second to last game of that. And then Phil calls me up to his office and says, Kobe, okay, I need you to dial it back. I'm like, why? Like, we're winning. I don't understand. It's because our goal is to win a championship. And we can get through the Western Conference with you playing this way. But in the East, we can dominate them inside with Shaq in the post. But if you continue to do this, we'll lose Shaq. We'll lose him.
His motivation, his excitement.
What triggers him, right? So I need you to pull back so we can pull Shaq forward for June. Wow. And I just looked at him like, this is one smart dude.
Wow, that's
yeah,
really smart.
Yeah, it's one smart dude, man. So I pulled it back.
Now, if you were going to write letters to the 3 most influential people in your life, who would they be to? What would they say?
Well, from a basketball perspective, I would say I'd write one to Michael, Bill Russell, and Jerry West.
Saying what?
Saying thank you for your mentorship. Thank you for always being there for me when I reach out and call.
If you were having a conversation, you at 37, and I'm Kobe at 18, what would you tell the young Kobe?
I would say focus on human nature. You have to balance out understanding human nature with the obsession to understand exact tactics of basketball. And as I've gotten older, I understood you can execute till the cows come home, but if you don't understand human nature, if you don't understand how to relate to others, if you don't understand what makes them tick, you're never going to win a championship.
What do you think you're going to miss the most?
I think the puzzle of trying to figure out how to get the best out of my teammates, the challenging of them, the relationships I have with them, and then watching them develop from training camp all the way in through the postseason and then into the finals where they're the best version of themselves. That process is the thing that I'll miss the most.
Let's dive into your mindset, because I really think that you have so many things that translate beyond sports. When we talk about mindset and beliefs, we talk about limiting beliefs as sort of being the ceiling of your potential. How you think about yourself, whether positively or negatively, that's probably what your potential is. How do you stretch your beliefs and make sure you are continually pushing the boundaries of your comfort zone and your capabilities?
I just dream. I have dreams, and dreams they should be pure. I think a lot of times, when we're born into this world, we actually wind up going backwards. And it seems like the more we mature, the more responsible our dreams become, and the more governors we put on ourselves and our ability to dream and to reimagine. And it's always a fight for us parents and for you guys to make sure that your dreams always stay pure. And so it's not a matter of pushing beyond your limitations or expectations. It's really a matter of protecting your dreams, protecting your imagination. That's really the key. And when you do that, then the world just seems limitless.
And when you set your dreams, a lot of times, especially in business and entrepreneurship, you have a big vision, and people will instantly start asking you how you'll do it. And so what we tell people is don't get caught up with the how, because if you know every step to accomplish your dream, you haven't really dreamed big enough.
Yeah.
You should know every step of the way, and you'll have a tendency to walk it back And so I would say, yeah, be unrealistic in your dreams as well. But let's talk about one game in particular. We're not going to cover basketball highlights because we'd be here for months. But let's talk about one game and how that sort of shatters the notion of what some people might think is possible. In 2006 against the Toronto Raptors, you scored 81 points, which is second only to Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points. No one has really come close to your total since. People have been in the 60s, including you. You went 28 of 46 shooting, 18 of 20 free throws. You scored 55 in the second half and 28 of your team's final 31 points. There's the scorebook above us that shows the scorebook. And the answer to the trivia question, who was the second leading scorer of that game, is?
I have no idea.
Smush Parker. Oh, it's so good. So
What are you at, 4?
he had 13. He had 13. But it was something that if you were watching it, it just kept building.
Now you know why I had to score 81. Tough days, man. That was tough.
If you do look at that lineup, you do understand it.
See, I'm not even going.
But at the time, the owner of the Lakers, Jerry Buss, said it was like watching a miracle happen. And for those of us watching on TV or were there, it really was one of those things you just couldn't believe was possible. Did you during the game, did you have to sort of like reset your beliefs? I know Lamar Odom was saying you can't get 60,
right.
You can't get 70. Or did you just let it flow and whatever happened, happened? Or were you really like gunning for numbers?
No, I always dreamed as a kid that, it was possible to score 80 or 90 or 100. I always just had a dream. Like sometimes you lay down in bed and you visualize things and you just kind of, that's at least how I would go to sleep. I'd lay down, I'd imagine playing for the Lakers and I'd imagine what the uniforms look like. I'd imagine where we'd be playing and, the smell of the arena and all sorts of stuff. And I would see myself, getting hot, and score 10 straight points. But in a dream, like, why would you ever interrupt that? Like, you're not going to have a dream and be like, okay, and then he misses his next 6. Like, it's not going to happen. So you just keep dreaming and dreaming and dreaming. And before I go to sleep, I'm like at 120 points, And so when you grow up, downloading that into your brain over and over and over. And then, that summer, I made 1,000 shots a day. 1,000, right? That's on top of weight training and my conditioning. I made 1,000 shots, and it weren't just shots. It were shots that you saw in that game. They were specific shots. I mean, it was coming out of the corner, going to the pinch post, footwork in the post, coming off the screen. It was very specific. So when you download that into your system and you go out in the court and you're just executing things that you've done thousands of times before, and you have that dream, then that becomes possible.
Yeah, everything's been not choreographed, but it's been practiced so many times that it's second nature.
There's why reinvent it? Like I don't understand that. You go out and play the game, and you're just trying to create something new. No, this is what I do. This is what I do extremely well. You're gonna have to stop me from doing that. And if you do stop me from doing that, I have a counter to that. Done.
Years later, you watched a replay of that game. And you live tweeted what you were thinking. And I thought that the students would like to see some of your tweets from watching that game.
I don't remember what the hell I said.
So this is awesome. So it says, watching the game now, I missed easy shots. I could have had 100. Down 14, I'm heating up. At this point, I wouldn't pass a kidney stone. And then lastly...
Damn, I should have been a comedian, man. What the hell?
And then lastly, I knew I should have got a fresh haircut for this game.
Yeah. Yeah, but missing 2 free throws is kind of ridiculous, though. Because like you make all those shots and you miss 2 free throws, it's just kind of silly.
It happens.
Yeah.
Let's talk about mindset and philosophy, because we tell students that it's very important that you have a personal philosophy. In your basketball career, did you have an articulated competitive philosophy, something short that meant something to you that really stood for what you played?
My philosophy was a very simple one. And this is where I think film plays a big part of my life. Rudy was one of my favorite films growing up. Right, and if you guys haven't seen Rudy, I suggest you go. You watch Rudy.
The reason why is it's Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame, so we don't get crazy about that.
I think the USC football program has done okay over the years. So it's. But after watching that film, I come to understand if I could work that hard every day, with being blessed with the physical tools that I have, what would my career be? And I made a promise to myself from that day that I was going to work that hard every single day so that when I do retire, I have no regrets. And that was the most important thing for me, is to leave no stone unturned, get better every single day. And if I lived that way, then over time, I'd have something that was beautiful. But that was my philosophy. It seems like a pretty simple one, but if you live your life to just get better every single day, and do that for 20 years, what do you have?
That's exactly right. Did you, you seemed at peace both before and during the game. Pre-game, we watched you. During the anthem, you seemed to go to a place, were you generating calm, focus, confidence? Do you have a mindfulness or meditative practice that you used while you played?
Yeah, well, Phil introduced meditation to us when he came to our team in 99, 2000. And it was something that I instantly gravitated to because I could see the effects. Right? When I used to watch, studying the games, the Bulls teams, and watching their demeanor, watching their composure, playing in a tough place in like Utah, doing the finals and being down 17, but everybody was like this. Right? You couldn't tell if they were down 17 or up 20 or a tie game. It never changed. And I was wondering why the hell that is. And that's when I started doing more research. And when Phil came, I immediately gravitated to it and then found myself accepted the challenge of finding what that space is. And for the 81-point game, man, to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about the game. My knee was hurting so much. I didn't know then, but I had a flap of joint of cartilage stuck in my joint line. And so my mind was really trying to go to a place where I don't feel that pain. And the game started, and because of that, I was just in a different space. I wasn't worried about what was to come. I wasn't worried about what just happened. I was just here. And when you're just there in the moment, playing plays right in front of you, your focus is heightened because nothing else matters. And that's the space I've tried to get to.
It's a perfect definition of mindfulness, in the present moment without judgment. And
not for nutrition, though, because I did have a pepperoni pizza the night before the game. And full disclosure, I also had a plain quarter pounder with cheese before the game. So to be young.
Dinner of champions, exactly.
Yeah,
you would need that now.
What do you think the biggest challenge is for most athletes after they retire?
I think it's the fear of starting anew. And that was certainly present for me as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Like an identity, you mean? Or
well, it's starting from scratch, right? Because when you play for 20 years, I played for 20 years, you reach a certain level, you're like, okay, wait a minute. I have to start again at the base of a mountain and try to climb the top of this mountain. First of all, what mountain am I climbing? I don't even know, like, what the hell am I going to be doing? And it's very scary. It's very scary.
Even for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And the thing that helped me actually was hurting my Achilles, because that forced me to sit there and say, okay, the day could be today that your career is over.
At any time when you were playing, you mean, yeah.
Now what do? You have these ideas about doing something with your life after basketball. But what if today is the day that's it? Now what do you do? So I had all this time sitting there with my Achilles injury and contemplating and thinking, and I said, I better get to work.
Wow.
That was that.
What was the vision for you afterwards then? Was it to do what you're doing now, or did you have other ideas, or what's the vision for
I struggled with it at first, because the first question I asked, which is the wrong question, is what's the biggest industry I can get into?
Was it more money thinking?
Yes,
or
money thinking, saying, okay, athletes are saying you can't make more revenue when you retire. This is your source of your income is here. Saying, okay, that's a challenge. What can I do? Mm-hmm. And I remember going for.
Didn't you launch a fund or something?
I did. And so I went for a ride, and I said, okay, stop thinking of it that way. You're thinking of it the wrong way. Why'd you start playing basketball? Because I loved it.
right, what do you love to do? Oh, well, I love to tell stories. All right, let's do that. And then that's where it started for me. And then on top of that, it became things like, you start learning more about the financial industry and about players going broke once they retire, and saying, okay, how can I minimize the chances of that happening? What are things that I can do to invest my money smartly? Also help control some of that outcome to a certain extent.
Right.
And that's when I called Mike Rapoli. Mike Rapoli was an entrepreneur who built Vitamin Water, Pirates Booty, and some other companies, and started learning from him. And then from that came the opportunity to invest in body armor.
Yeah.
And which we're
good.
drinking now.
It's delicious.
But all that came from the injury, and really having to self-assess and face that really dark room of what comes next.
What do you think has been the greatest challenge you've had since leaving the game?
The greatest challenge. I think it's
you won an Oscar. You're launching podcasts and shows, and you got a book coming out.
Yeah, but it's different though. Like we were just talking about it here in the office the other day. When you play the game, you hit a game-winning shot, you miss a shot, the reaction's there. You can see how people are responding to it, right? You can feel it.
The energy is
there. What I do now, you don't. Like I don't see how people are affected by their basketball, or creating the punies and you put it out there. Like I wish I could see a car ride of a family the first time their daughter hears Lily's Lemonade and what she's doing, if she's singing along to it. That's not there, right? So that's the challenge. That's the one thing that I miss, is being able to feed off of the energy. Yeah.
The instant feedback that you get from missing or scoring a shot, winning or losing a game. It's like either way, you're getting a result, right?
Yes. That's the one thing. And when I went to, because I spent a lot of time with mentors as well, up at Pixar and Disney Studios. They've been absolutely wonderful Disney animation. And I talked to them about Frozen and Moana and how our kids love them. And they're always like, oh, that's awesome. And they want to hear it because they don't ever get a chance to truly see it. Like they're not
sitting in the movie theater.
No. And they don't have time to go to Disneyland and walk around the park and see how many families are enjoying the content that they've created because they're busy making the next
creating.
Yes. So that's the one thing.
Storytelling is something you're really passionate about. What's a story over your life that's been a constant theme that you go back to? Is there something you heard as a kid that really resonates with you, or a book or a movie that just feels like this is me?
Yeah, that's funny. Movies, there are plenty, but there's a quote from one of my English teachers at Lower Merion named Mr. Fisk. He had a great quote that said, "Rest at the end, not in the middle." And that's something I always live by. I'm not going to rest. I'm going to keep on pushing now. There are a lot of answers that I don't have, even questions that I don't have. But I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll figure these things out as we go, right? And you just continue to build that way. So I try to live by that all the time.
Rest at the end.
Rest at the end.
What's the question that eats you alive the most that you haven't answered yet?
The question that eats me alive that I haven't answered yet.
Or that you're still looking for the answer.
I'm still looking for the answer. How to tell a good story. I don't think anybody has that answer. Like when I sat down to write Dear Basketball, I was like, okay, what do I want to say? And you have certain acts and how you can structure certain things, right? The ebbs and flows of story. Certain formulas that have been there since the beginning of time. But it's such an exact science.
So challenging, yeah.
Right? And so that one question is really interesting.
Why do you want to tell a great story?
I think stories is what moves the world. Whether it's an inspirational story, or it's an informational one. Nothing in this world moves without story. Be it from the political world, sports world, nothing that we have moves without story. And so I think that is the root of everything. And if we're going to try to make the world a better place, story is the right place to start.
I agree.
But most people don't understand. Like my last year, people would come up to me and say, okay, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to be a storyteller.
Really?
And they go,
They're like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about?
all right, man. So
What
what's
are you
gonna
really gonna
happen?
do? Yeah.
Like what's gonna happen when you retire is you're gonna go through like a week of depression. Then the second week is gonna be like denial and all that.
Right.
I'm like, dude, seriously, I'm good. So after a while, I just got sick of it, and I just said, I don't know. I'll go play golf or something.
Right. You just tell them a lie.
I'm not gonna do anything. I'm
I'll
just
invest in
gonna play.
real estate. Yeah.
Whatever. I'm not gonna.
So recruiting. Obviously, in the league, you were known as a great recruiter. So what is your recruiting approach? So if you're sitting down with me, I'm somebody you really want me on the team. What's your approach to recruit me?
You want first place? Come play with me. You want second place? Go somewhere else.
This is too much fun here. Final thoughts, man. What are we going to see with Kobe next 20 years? What other projects you got in mind that you're working on right now?
The biggest challenge for us is looking at the entertainment industry and how to diversify it, particularly in animation, but also in writing and young YA novels, middle grade novels, how to create more diverse characters. How do we have better representation? How do we create better opportunities, not just ethnicity, but also gender diversity? I have 4 girls, right? So my mission is to make sure women have opportunities that they haven't been afforded. That is I'm the father of 4 girls. So that is my next obsession, is how do we lead that charge from the front? How do we take an animation industry that lacks in diversity, substantially lacks in diversity? How do we take some of those old animation techniques and teach a whole new generation of animators to come in and create films that inspire the world? And we're getting after it.
I think everybody knows crystal clear Kobe's going to get whatever Kobe wants. That's crystal clear, man. So you leave him alone, kind of like Phil left you guys alone to do.
I'm not going to hire you to tell you how to do your job.
Got it. So recruiting. Obviously, in the league, you were known as a great recruiter. So what is your recruiting approach? So if you're sitting down with me, I'm somebody you really want me on the team. What's your approach to recruit me?
You want first place? Come play with me. You want second place? Go somewhere else.
This is too much fun here. Final thoughts, man. What are we going to see with Kobe next 20 years? What other projects you got in mind that you're working on right now?
The biggest challenge for us is looking at the entertainment industry and how to diversify it, particularly in animation, but also in writing and young YA novels, middle grade novels, how to create more diverse characters. How do we have better representation? How do we create better opportunities, not just ethnicity, but also gender diversity? I have 4 girls, right? So my mission is to make sure women have opportunities that they haven't been afforded. That is I'm the father of 4 girls. So that is my next obsession, is how do we lead that charge from the front? How do we take an animation industry that lacks in diversity, substantially lacks in diversity? How do we take some of those old animation techniques and teach a whole new generation of animators to come in and create films that inspire the world? And we're getting after it.
I think everybody knows crystal clear Kobe's going to get whatever Kobe wants. That's crystal clear, man. Brother, appreciate you for coming out.
How's your first week of retirement?
It's been good. It's been good. I wish I could say I've been relaxing, but I haven't. But it's been fun.
You leave with a 60-point game, and we had a chance to talk right after the game. Very few people can leave like that, but does it cause you to retrace in your brain, perhaps I can still do this, maybe I'm leaving a little bit too early instead of a little bit too soon?
It could, but I consider myself very lucky because I didn't stop playing the game because I didn't feel like I could play at a certain level anymore. I stopped playing because I just didn't want to do it anymore. It's just kind of.
Why? After 20 years, what hit you?
It's just. I think it's just part of evolution. I felt like I wanted to move on to something else, and my passion and my focus started shifting towards what comes next versus being completely obsessed with the game itself. So I had that inner comfort walking away from the game. Nothing to do with scoring 60 or 50 or whatever the case may be. That was completely irrelevant to me.
If you had a better team the last couple of years,
Wouldn't make a difference. Seriously, wouldn't make a difference. I mean,
so
I've had plenty of
championship 6,
opportunities.
7, 8, 9, or whatever might
Doesn't
have come.
matter.
Wouldn't have,
Doesn't
okay.
matter because when I made the announcement, made the decision, I kept tossing and turning with, all right, how do you know? And I kept thinking, well, I want this to be the last year, but we'll see what happens at the end of the season, right? We'll see what happens. If I get on the contending team, we win. But the reality is, you can't make this type of a decision based on outside circumstances, right? This must be a decision that comes from within. Either you want to play or you don't want to play. And the question, once I answered that question, it was very easy.
Let's go back to the beginning. I remember when you came into the league, and I remember you playing in the bowels of the spectrum as a very, very little boy. And then to see you at Lower Merion High School, and then you came into the NBA, was with the Hornets for about 20 seconds, and then became a Laker. What was your expectation of yourself and your goal when you came into the league?
God, it's hard to remember back that long. I remember being extremely excited, but also being extremely focused because there was a lot of talk as to whether or not I was making the right decision. And there's a lot of people that were saying I was going to be a failure. And so I remember my concentration being extremely, extremely high and not having even one day to really enjoy it or celebrate it. I was back at the gym and working extremely hard because I felt like there was just so much at stake.
A couple more minutes, and I'm going to have students ask you some questions. But I want to dive into your businesses now that you're sort of transitioned from basketball. It's interesting because most athletes and retired athletes focus their business efforts around building their own brand, their personal brand. And certainly, you have a brand, you have a shoe, but you've chosen to do something else, something that's more bold, something that you really haven't done before. Can you tell us why you're doing this, why you're going into a creative endeavor like Granity Studios?
Because I love doing it. I mean, it's that simple. You have to sit and ask yourself what is truly going to get you up in the morning, what's going to keep you up at night. And, when you find what that answer is, you stay true to that. I've built a brand for the last 20-some years, personal brand, which is great. But that is not where our focus is going to be for the next 50 years. Right? It's what we are doing now. Are we taking a big risk? Yeah. But I think that if we focus on one thing and do that one thing exceptionally well, we won't fail at that one thing. So sometimes you got to put the other stuff to bed and focus on what you believe is the core of the company. And that always starts from what you love to do the most.
So let's focus on Granity. Bryant Stiebel Partners is primarily a venture fund, invests in early stage and growth stage companies. Your partner, Jeff Stiebel, very experienced investor. You guys have had some wins already with some great companies. But I want to spend some time on Granity because I think that's where most of your creativity is expressed. We talked about setting limits and artificial limits and beliefs on ourselves. Granity Studios, what does the word Granity mean?
It means greater than infinity. And I just took those words and then made a new word. And the whole idea is that, when I started playing the game, everything was about trying to be the best. Win as many championships as you can, yada, 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 yada. You get older, you start to understand that really it's about the next generation, that these championships do come and go, right? And there'll be other people that win championships, but the most important thing you can do is to pay everything that you've learned forward to the next generation to come. And that's truly how you create something that lasts forever, right? And so the fundamental belief of the company is create forever. Now, how do you do that? And that's how you create something that's greater than infinity. You inspire one who inspires the next, who inspires the next, and on you go. And that's the foundation of it all.
That's great. And Granity Studios sort of two different areas, content production and publishing, right? Can you tell us, on the content side, tell us about Detail with Kobe Bryant and is it Puny Pete and Friends?
Puny Pete and Friends.
Tell us about those two things.
Detail, we'll launch that April 12th on ESPN+. And what I observed a lot in my career is how players study film. right? Because now it's become like you watch game film and you see what you do right, you see what you do wrong. Okay, let's do more of that, let's do less of that, right? But the way I grew up, from Tex Winter, Phil Jackson, the way film was broken down, it was broken down to the smallest detail. It was broken down to the right angle. It was broken down to foot placement, timing, looking at the posture of a teammate. You know, what could he be thinking? What could he be feeling? Same thing with the opposition. You know, you watch the feed, watch players go into the timeouts, who's talking to who's not talking. You start looking at every little thing. And so watching the game for me would take like 5 hours. And that attention to detail is what's missing. So I felt like if I can put that in a show and have the next generation, these 11-year-old kids, 12-year-old kids, start watching the game at that level, what are they going to be when they're 25? You know, what level would they be at then? It's a passion of mine to get that thing going. Like I said, April 12th will be the first episode.
It's so interesting, you know, we learn so many things when we're younger, and then we never really turn back to learn how to learn. And so this is a tool to learn how to learn and learn how to become great. And then what about Puny Pete and Friends?
Puny Pete is like, it's decided to create like a sports version of the Peanut Gang, which is like the funniest thing. It's awesome. There's these little kids, this kid named Puny Pete, and God bless his heart. No matter how hard he tries, he can never seem to get shit right. But he tries and tries and tries and tries. And it's a podcast. And what I wanted to do with the podcast is, you know, typically you hear a person talking and then the podcast almost becomes white noise because you kind of hear somebody talking and then you gotta, did you pay attention? But what I wanted to do is take it back to, you know, where there was no TV and sports was telecast on the radio. And so we have these two characters, Clark and Kimberly Spice, and they're the announcers. So they're our vision into the world. And so they want to grow up to be the greatest announcers ever, right? And so they're commentating on what it is that we see. And you have these kids that are out there playing all of these sports, baseball, football, basketball. And it's really about the relationship between them all and about the power of dreams and success and failures. And it's a series about their journey, but it's fun.
And it's podcast, right?
Podcast.
Yeah. And on the publishing side, I've heard that you have like 9 different novels in development. Can you tell us what realm they're in and what role do you play in generating the characters and the content?
It's YA, and it's all sports and fantasy. So, having kids, if I try to tell my daughters you have to work hard and all sorts of stuff, like they just kind of look at me like, yeah, Dad, yeah, we get it. And they just kind of go in one ear, go out the other. So I've had to start trying to figure out how to seed that into stories, into content, into short stories, right? Stories I can read to them at bedtime. And then that's when the messages would sink in because they pay attention to a character more so than they would pay attention to what the hell I'm saying, you know? But I trick them because I wrote the story, ha ha ha. And so that's where this whole idea kind of started. And from there, I just started kind of outlining different characters and creating an entire world that's centered around sports and fantasy and magic. And the first novel series that we'll release is called Rollaby Wizenard. And it's a magical coach that comes in to teach these kids the magic that's within them and use fundamentals of the game and the emotion within each character and how they navigate those emotions to reach their full potential.
So I believe, knowing you, that your greatness is in your future, that it's not in the rearview mirror of what you've done on a basketball court. How are you going to apply everything that made you what you are and got you to this point now in Kobe Inc. and your after basketball life?
Well, I mean, the hardest part for that has been trying to figure out what comes next. You know, it used to terrify me at 20, 21 years old, looking at athletes who've retired and really have nothing to go to. You kind of try to figure it out. Like you retire and then you say, okay, I got to figure things out. And I didn't want that. You know, so at the age of 20 and 21, I started really reading a lot and trying to like find what do I love to do. And, you know, I was fortunate but unfortunate to have these injuries, you know, with the Achilles, the shoulder, and the knee. I say fortunate because it gave me a lot of time to think. It gave me a lot of time to sit. It gave me a lot of time to say, man, my career could be over right now. And all of this work that you've done, trying to figure out what comes next, you're unprepared for, right? And I didn't want that. So I kept thinking, asking the wrong question What's the biggest industry I can get into? What industry I can get into that has the biggest upside? Wrong question. And then I started asking, what do you like doing? What do you love to do the most? I love storytelling. I absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And so that's what I decided to do.
So you want to tell stories now. And you
I wanna tell
started with your
stories.
own story, which was Muse, which was on Showtime, which was a terrific documentary. And if you haven't seen it,
Thank
I
you.
recommend that you get it on demand or go to showtime.com.
Thank you.
That was your first start. Were you pleased with that effort?
Yeah, I was. It's storytelling gives you such a broad lens. But the opportunities that you have in media and technology, the opportunities that you have to entertain and educate are endless. I mean, literally, story is the seed of everything. It's the seed of everything. None of us would be sitting in this room right now without the power of story, because somewhere along the lines, you either read a story, you either heard a story that inspired you, and that gave you that dream of accomplishing what it is that you've accomplished. So I think story can literally change the world. And I am extremely fascinated by that. And even beyond that, storytelling through sports. What does that look like? You sit there and, I'm sure a lot of us have, many of you have kids at home that play sports. You tuck your kids in the bed, you read them a book. What sports book are you going to read to them that touches fantasy, right? That touches the imagination, that adds mythology to it? There are no stories out there like that. And I'm really, 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 really excited about bringing that to the world.
How are you doing with it?
Oh, great. I mean, I love it.
You've been doing this plus basketball. It's just not a week-long event now or 2-week-long event.
It's funny, the day of the last game, after the game, I got a lot of questions about what this day was like, and I woke up, took the kids to school, went to the office, and sat there and wrote stories, edited stories till 4:30. 4:30. Went home, changed, went to the game. Woke up the next morning, went back to the office.
Guess it wasn't too much different than what you had been doing other than basketball wasn't involved.
The point is, and I really want athletes to understand this, is that you really have to work hard to figure out what comes next. Like for some of us, we were born and basketball was here. I started playing basketball when I was 2. And for a lot of us, it's really easy, that first phase, but it's really, really hard to find something else that you love just as much or more so, right? And that's really the key. It's not keeping yourself busy. It's that you have to figure out what it is that you really want to do. Wake up in the morning and say, I'm excited to go do this. What is that? Once you figure that out, everything will be fine.
You think you'll have that same passion?
Well, I have it now. I mean, I can't, I'm really, 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 really fortunate to be able to sit here and say that. I love being here with you fine folks, but I'd rather be at the office writing stories right now, honestly. So much I enjoy this.
Well, maybe
fine
that'll
company.
change.